everybody, today we're going to be talking about picking childcare. Lots to think of when it comes to childcare. And so first we're going to talk about some different options that are available. Probably the most popular, maybe one of the only options available in Upper, is the family childcare home, which basically means that there's a provider who brings in groups of children into their own home and cares for them. So you're taking your child into somebody else's house, and they are caring for the children from many families. Some are licensed, some are not. It kind of depends on where you go. And so that might be a question that you'd want to ask when you're checking out different places to take your child. Some advantages of this type of childcare is it's a home-like environment. You're in somebody's house, so it's a very homey feel for your children to be in all day while you're at work. They tend to have more flexible hours. They're in their own homes, so they might be able to work different shifts or care for your child a little later if you have to work late, but they tend to be a little more flexible when it comes to pickup times and drop-off times. They're a less expensive option when it comes to comparing it to some of the other types of childcare. There are some disadvantages, and if the caregiver gets sick, there's no backup. Usually it's one person who takes care of them, so if they're sick, you'll have to figure something else out or have a backup babysitter. So you need to have that backup plan in place, and don't wait until it happens to come up with that backup plan. They may be very reliable, but there's always that chance that they could get sick. Second option is a daycare center. No daycare centers really in Upper, but there are a lot of daycare centers out there. And they are facilities where they're specifically designed for caring for children. So they're built to the standards to a child's size and built like a school, basically, that you have different rooms and different areas for the children, and it's specifically designed for that purpose. Usually when you take your child to a daycare center, they divide the kids up into different groups based on their age. So your child is going to be with kids their own age during the day. They can make friends with those kids. They can have age-appropriate activities since they're all the same age. There's some advantages to daycare centers. They are state regulated, and the state will come in and do inspections to make sure that they are meeting the high standard that they have set for them. It's a structured environment. A lot of times they have a structured schedule. They might have a structured curriculum that they're doing educational activities with the kids. So it's definitely something that may have its advantages, or something you want to check out to see what they're like. There tends to be more adults in the building, that there's multiple people working there, and so if somebody's sick, there's somebody there to fill in if they can't be there. So they're more reliable than what you might have for relying on one person in their own home if they were to get sick. Some disadvantages: they're not going to care for sick kids, although most of the options, if your kid's sick, you're going to need to stay home and take care of them. They tend to have a more rigid drop-off and pick-up time as well. So they have a certain hours that they're open, and if you're working late, you might be out of luck. You got to get there and get your kids. Or I've heard of some where they have extra fees that they charge if you're late picking up your children. A nanny is when you have a provider come into your own house, so they're taking care of your children in your house. And there are definitely advantages to that for the kids and for you. They tend to be able to work around your schedule because they're working for you. And so if you're working really early, or you have to work late, or you have a meeting that you have to go to, they should be able to help with the care of your children during that time. The kids are in their own house, so they have their own toys and their own room and their own environment that they're used to. So that can be a big advantage for them too. It's convenient. If the kids want to sleep in, you don't have to get them up and drag them out of the house when you have to leave. The nanny can come into the house and get them dressed and get them around for the day after you've already left, if that's they're the child that likes to sleep in. Some disadvantages: it is expensive because they are relying on you for their income. and it tends to be harder to find to have somebody who will come into your house and just watch your kids. A variation of that would be an au pair. And they are like a nanny, only they live in the house and they take care of your kids. So advantage is definitely most convenient because they're always there to take care of the kids, and they're always there to work around their schedule and help out whenever it's needed. Disadvantage is it's going to be the most expensive type, and it's going to be hard to find to have somebody who wants to come in and live in somebody else's house to take care of the kids. So when you're looking for childcare, you definitely want to make sure you start early. You don't want to wait until the last minute. If you're pregnant, you want to start looking during pregnancy for those options and who has the openings to be able to take care of your child. Sometimes that's a big problem of not only finding somebody you trust, but also finding somebody who has openings, especially for babies. Find out the options in your area. What's available? What different places are there? And probably one of the better ways to find out your options is just ask around. Talk to your friends, talk to family, talk to coworkers, and ask them for recommendations. Where did they take their kids? What do they like about them? Do they know of anybody that they didn't like, that maybe they had to leave for one reason or another? Just listen to all the stories, because usually people are willing to share where they had good experiences and also where they had bad. Once you've kind of narrowed it down, maybe you have a couple in mind based on those recommendations, visit the center yourself. Actually, for yourself, see what that place is like, how the staff interacts with children. Sometimes things change over time. So maybe if you talk to somebody who had their child there several years ago, maybe things have changed. So see for yourself and know that that's a place where you feel comfortable taking your children. While you're there, look at the environment. Where is the child going to be? How much space do they have? What kind of toys do they have? How do the providers interact with the kids? Are they playing with them? Do they seem really good with the kids? Ask lots of questions. There's really no dumb questions. It might be even just to see how they respond. But ask a lot of questions just to find out what everything will be. And we'll get back to questions here in a minute. After your decision is made, stay involved. Talk to the provider, check in on things, make sure you keep up with it, with knowing what's going on. Don't be afraid that if things aren't to your expectations, if you need to move your child somewhere else, do that. Part of that is just being a parent and trusting, figuring out who you can trust and where you should be when it comes to where your child's going to spend most of their day if you're working. All right, so some questions to ask. One thing is going to be pay. What are their rates? How much are you going to have to pay for the care of your children? There's a lot of factors that go into how much the cost tends to be. One is how many kids do you have? If you have multiple kids in daycare or at the provider's home, it's going to cost more. Also, the type of care. In a provider's home versus a daycare center versus a nanny, all very different levels of care, and so they tend to have different levels of cost. Another factor could be location. Living in Upper Sandusky, you probably would be paying less for childcare than if you go down to Columbus area, where there's more kids, more options. You're probably going to be paying more in that bigger city. Sometimes it just kind of depends on what's available, that kind of supply and demand of what's out there versus how many people are around to want that type of care. Also find out their policies for vacation time, sick time, holidays. If you're going into a provider's home for your children, in that family childcare home, those people are probably going to need vacations at some time. What is their policy for that? How much notice do they give you if they're taking time off? Do they have certain expectations for your pay when it comes to vacation time? If you're on vacation, do you have to pay still to keep your spot at the daycare center? Sick days, holidays, all those things. Sometimes people work on holidays. Is the childcare provider available to take care of your child on those holidays? Things to ask, to know ahead of time, especially depending on your schedule, your work schedule. Find out about the adult to child ratio. How many kids will be there for each adult? Does that seem like One adult could take care of that many kids. Meals, are they provided? If so, what kind of meals do they serve? Sometimes they provide a well-balanced meal. Sometimes you want to just make sure that there's a variety and things that your child would like. Or what would happen if your child doesn't like the meal that's provided. Sometimes, especially in daycare centers, they may not provide food, so you have to pack all of the meals and snacks for your child. And so you'd want to find that out as well. My sister-in-law, they went to a daycare where they had to pack the meals, and they had to make sure that what they packed had all of the food groups. So you'd want to know what you're expected to provide for your child as well. What's the discipline policy? Ultimately, kids are probably going to get in trouble. So what do they do to discipline the children who do get in trouble? A few more questions. How do they communicate with parents? Do they have a newsletter? Do they call? Do they text? Do they email? What kind of forms of communication will they have so that you know what's going on? And sometimes it's nice if they will update you about the things that the child's been doing, or if there's educational activities or crafts that they're doing, being able to see what your child's doing during the day. Where are the kids going to take their nap? Do they have little cots for the kids to take naps? Do they sleep on the floor? Do they sleep in beds? Where exactly does that happen? What does a routine look like? What would a typical day for your child look like? What are they doing every single day? Is there something that's planned for them? What kind of activities are planned? Do they have educational activities? Do they have crafts? Do they have nap time? Do they get to go outside and play? Do they go on field trips? Whatever that might be, but what are your children going to be doing, and are you comfortable with that? Are they sitting in front of the TV all day? Things to know. Staff training. What kind of training do they have? Do they have that educational background when it comes to caring for children? Do they have some sort of degree? What do they do to make sure that they know how to care for a child properly? So there's some different things to think about. It's a big decision. There's a lot to think about, and sometimes it's hard to know who to trust. So make sure that you check out any provider thoroughly and make sure that you're comfortable. And if you're at any point you become uncomfortable with the care, it's okay to leave and go somewhere else. That's all for today. See you guys later.